we need to talk about the would-be Biden assassin, Craig Robertson. Because we're getting more information about the case. Not a lot of more information about the case. We can give a slight update. But I want to give the slight update in response to the conservative reaction to Craig Robertson's death after Craig Robertson was killed in an FBI raid. So for those of you who don't know, Craig Robertson was a person who went online and made a bunch of threats towards Joe Biden. And we're going to look at some of these threats in a bit after I talk about how people are reacting to his death. He made a bunch of threats towards Joe Biden. And after multiple threats towards Joe Biden, as Joe Biden was coming to Utah, Craig Robertson's home state, and Craig Robertson was saying maybe he's going to go over there and kill him, the FBI decided, after monitoring him for months for his activity on Truth Social, which is one of the social media platforms he posted on. He also posted on Facebook. After monitoring him for months, and they seen this development of Biden's going to Utah, and now this person they've been monitoring is threatening to kill Biden, they're going to go to his home and they're going to stop him before he can do anything rash, especially considering that Craig Robertson does own guns. He's posted pictures of himself with firearms online, the same firearms he's explicitly saying he would use to go kill Joe Biden. So, and that's not the only person he's threatened. He's threatened a bunch of others like Kamala Harris and other politicians as well. I'm just saying Joe Biden because that's the most high-profile politician that he's threatened. And he was also the politician that was coming to Utah, the state where he was in, and that's why he was making the threats. So the FBI pays a visit to his home, and then he dies. And that's all the information we had. He was killed in a shootout with police, or at least he was shot by police at the scene. So now, immediately, most people were like, wow, this guy seemed crazy. This guy seemed like he wanted to kill the president. And most people logically concluded we're going to have to wait for more information to come out about the exact details of his death. But it sounds like a maniac was confronted by the police and did what maniacs do. We don't have all the information yet. We still don't have all the information yet. And if there's any body cam footage, it should be released. But based on this little information, this tiny piece of information, some people took a radically different conclusion. Some high-profile conservative influencers and even former congressional candidates. Let's talk about the martyrdom of Craig Robertson. 5:33 a.m., August 11th, Jack Posobiec. Look at their reaction. The left wants what happened to Craig Robertson and Ashley Babbitt. Ashley Babbitt was somebody who stormed the Capitol and was warned by police after approaching the final barrier between, the elected representatives and the angry mob chanting to kill Mike Pence. She was told to stay back. She tried to jump through a busted window, got shot after she was warned by a police officer, and has also been martyred by many conservatives. The left wants what happened to Craig Robertson and Ashley Babbitt to happen to every Trump supporter. Wow, every Trump supporter. I remember I reacted to this in one way. I posted this picture of this is one of my favorite Joe Biden memes. This is what Jack Posobiec actually thinks that Joe Biden's regime in the United States is doing or wants to do to every Trump supporter. Another message. This is from Laura Loomer, former congressional candidate. You might know her for handcuffing herself to Twitter after she was banned from the platform for requesting a non-Muslim taxi service. She handcuffed herself to Twitter, comparing her banning from Twitter to what Jews felt during the Holocaust. Anyway, she's ran multiple times for Congress, endorsed by Donald Trump, lost every time. She tweeted about this, saying, "America is no longer a safe country for conservatives to live in. The FBI is the personal hit squad for Joe Biden and the Democratic Party." I guess she's alleging that the Democrats and Joe Biden sent the FBI to this man's home to murder him in cold blood. They are hunting Americans down and assassinating them in cold blood for simply being conservative. Remember that. Simply being conservative. That's why this guy died. For simply being conservative. Remember that. They murdered Craig Robertson. Now, not all of it was this melodramatic. Some of it was kind of just you know, your kind of run-of-the-mill, like, ideation of this guy. For example, Jack Posobiec. Here it comes around again. Here is a photo of Craig Robertson in Utah Provo, a carpenter who had recently organized a group of volunteers to build a ramp for a disabled neighbor. Wow. Isn't that beautiful? One question. Just one question, though. How many times do I need to build ramps for the disabled before I can threaten the president of the United States with death? I just want to know, because if Trump gets reelected, I want to know, like, how many ramps for the disabled? Okay. You know, maybe there's not a lot of disabled in my community. Could I do Meals on Wheels? What about box tops? You know, remember box tops? They'd be in the bottom of like Nutri-Grain bar packets, and you cut them out and you can redeem them for supplies for your school. Maybe if I get like a baggie full of box tops, then I can get one shot. Is that how it works? Of course not. That's stupid. I don't care if this guy personally came to Ukraine and dragged 1,000 orphans from burning husks of buildings. Okay? That's very nice of him to do. It's cool that he was engaging his community like that. That does not give him an excuse to make violent threats towards the president of the United States online while posing with guns. The guns that he was saying he was going to go kill them with. And that's why, quickly, I'm going to wrap up with this TV segment. This shit got all the way onto national television. Real America's Voice, okay? Let's watch this segment by Jack Posobiec. He's really been crusading on this issue. Before we look at what exactly this guy posted and what neighbors are saying about how it went down. Because look, I have seen so many conservatives, when an unarmed black man was killed by police, come out and say, you guys are jumping to conclusions. Jumping to conclusions. So this video shows that unarmed black man getting capped in the back of the head as he runs away. Wait until all of the evidence comes forward. Wait until we got the body cam footage. Wait until we got all the witness testimony. Wait until the guy has his day in court. Wait until this. Wait until that. And then people would post nice pictures, like nice looking pictures of this young kid, you know, like doing violin practice or doing something, like maybe working on cars, maybe like, I don't know, doing charity work for the blind. And then people would be like, no, don't look at this picture. Look at this picture of him smoking weed with a gold grill. And he's got baggy pants. His pants are sagging. And they'll try to find a picture that makes him look the most dangerous, right? And all those aspects that I've seen people engage in before is now just for like just 180, immediate flip, no reflection. Maybe we should be somewhat consistent on how police response should be reacted to, on waiting for all the evidence to come forward. Whatever. Jack Posobiec wanted to make sure to race to the headlines, because it's a headline now. If we wait a week until all the information's public, then maybe, number one, it won't be a big scandal. It'll just reveal that actually he wasn't murdered. And number two, you're going to lose the information rush of the 24-hour news cycle. Let's check out what this guy had to say about Craig Robertson, and then let's listen to what Craig Robertson was saying publicly.
We are live here, Washington, D.C. Today is August 10th, 2023, Anno Domini. What you just saw there was a very confusing clip recorded by a man in Provo, Utah. 6:15 a.m., an FBI SWAT team shows up across the street at the home of his elderly neighbor in his 70s, banging on the door, pre-dawn raid, screaming. An explosion goes off. The video cuts off. We later find out that the man was wanted and had been under investigation by the FBI. They had a search warrant as well as an arrest warrant. They were coming to arrest him for threats against the president and interstate threats. Yet if you continue to read more in the documents, they say the man was in his 70s.
In the documents. I want to hear, what does he mean in the documents? How much information has been released that he's saying in the documents? Okay, let's hear. He was in his 70s. We knew that since the start. I don't know what he's talking about in the documents, but whatever.
He attended church.
I don't, okay, in the documents. Yeah, okay, so I love the idea that that they're reading like the official like police documents, and it's saying, as the police announced that they were going to bust in through his front door of the church-going 75-year-old elderly community member. That's not how the documents describe police reports. I just don't know what documents he's referring to. I assume maybe like neighbor's testimony or something like that. I don't know, because that's what a lot of people are reporting on, and that's how people are talking about what happened. It's neighbor's testimony, because we've gotten some information from the FBI. We haven't gotten a detailed breakdown of the events yet from the FBI or any body cam footage.
He's been under surveillance since March of this year, and that the FBI in the past had gone to his home and spoken to him, and he did not respond aggressively. What changed? Why did the FBI decide to go and launch this pre-dawn raid of Craig Robertson in the way that they did? I'd like to know answers, and I'm being honest. Did they have evidence that Craig Robertson was about to leave his home with a sniper rifle and do something that he obviously shouldn't do? I've read the post that he made online. If you make posts like that, you better expect a knock on your door from law enforcement, of course. But the question is, was the pre-dawn raid by an FBI SWAT team the only way to go about this? Federal law enforcement, national law enforcement in this country, if we are going to have a serious conversation about this, if we're going to have a serious conversation about our relationship, then we need to understand exactly what it is that the government wants. Because to me, and it's just my opinion, this looks like a show of force. This looks like
show of force.
A message.
A message.
This looks like a message being sent to the people of this country. Threaten us, and we'll show up at your home at 6:15 in the morning and take you out. That's what it looks like, folks.
That is the dumbest. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Jack Posobiec has always been a knuckle dragging remedial fool, right? He's never been that particularly intelligent. But this whole video is fucking wild, right? It's absolutely wild. Okay, so where do I even begin? Okay, so the first thing I'll say, he's saying earlier, like, what changed? What? I mean, they went to his house and talked to him about this before. What changed this time? I'll tell Jack what changed, and it's not that difficult to find out. It is true. He's been under monitoring by the FBI since March, and that's because of posts like this. The FBI tried to interfere with my free speech right in my driveway. My 4.5 APC was ready to smoke him. This is from March 30th. This is something that would probably obviously get you under monitoring. Definitely if you're also posting pictures like this in ghillie suits, right? I hear Biden is coming to you. Oh, this is later. We need, that's the last one. That's the important one. In my dream, I see Joe Biden's body in a dark corner of a DC parking garage with his head severed and lying in a huge puddle of blood. Hurrah! To my friends in the Federal Bureau of Idiots, I know you're reading this and you have no idea how close your agents come to violent eradication. And then this is the thing. These are the two posts right here that I think probably garnered their attention because it was done very recently. I hear Biden is coming to Utah, digging out my old ghillie suit, and we just saw that he had the ghillie suit, and cleaning the dust off of my M24 sniper rifle. We just saw in that other post, he had an M24 sniper rifle. If you're curious about the model, that's what it was. Welcome, buffoon in chief. So Biden's coming to Utah. That's where Craig Robertson is. Okay, so that's already a problem. Craig Robertson knows Joe Biden's coming to Utah. Craig Robertson is openly threatening Joe Biden coming to Utah. And he's in the area, so it's not like it'd be that difficult for him to go to wherever he's going. And he's threatening to kill him already. Okay, pretty concerning. And he's threatening to do it with a means that we know he has. We know he has an old ghillie suit. He's posted his old ghillie suit online before. And we know he has an M24 sniper rifle. He's posted his M24 sniper rifle online before. Perhaps Utah will become famous this week as the place a sniper, again, a means we know that is at its disposal, took out Biden, the Marxist. This is a pretty clear indication that he has the means, he will be in the vicinity of Joe Biden, and he wants to, and he's indicating it multiple times. And this is somebody who's already interacted with FBI about his behavior online before, has threatened the FBI, and has not corrected his behavior in any way. So, what happened? So if anybody's curious as to why they did this and what changed is Joe Biden was going to the state where this guy was actively saying he was going to kill Joe Biden when he came to his state, while describing the means that he would do it with a sniper rifle in his ghillie suit, which we know he has. Some people will be like, oh, well, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. If I was joking about murdering someone, I would not be describing the real weapons that I have and talking about their exact location. Not to mention, this is part of a pattern of crazy ass online behavior. So if he's curious as to why they did this, why this guy was treated differently this time, is because the situation was different. And the situation was more severe than last time. Because Joe Biden was being directly threatened and he was giving dates. And that date was a week away. I mean, think about how many times we have had school shootings happen, and afterwards we find out that this school shooter was online doing some YouTube playlist of like My Little Pony art or something, saying, I'm gonna kill all the kids in my class. I'm gonna kill all the kids in my class because Twilight Sparkle told me to, or whatever, right? School shooters are not always the most well-balanced people. For whatever reason, they're gonna go engage in the shooting, and they post about it on Instagram, or they post about it on Twitter, and they post about it on Facebook. And sometimes it's not just 24 hours in advance, sometimes it's weeks in advance. And they post pictures of a ton of guns and firearms while making these threats, and then nothing happens. No one reports the account, or it's just like brushed off. And then when the shootings happen, everyone says, how could this happen? How could this happen? He was saying it publicly and nobody did anything. So this time, someone did something. And let me describe to you how a neighbors reported that this went down. Now, this is from a neighbor. This is not an official police report. This is not shown on body camera. This is testimony from neighbors. Now, contrast how I'm about to describe this with how Jack Posobiec described it. And also imagine how the situation would be different if instead of this old Trump supporter, it was, say, like a Crip, or it was somebody with some sort of criminal history, or, you know, maybe somebody that Jack Posobiec would be a little bit less sympathetic to. Because I know for sure, if there was some guy who was like posting pictures with Glocks and a bunch of cash in his hand, and then like he had gold grills, and he was throwing up gang signs, and he's saying he was gonna go do drive-bys and rob this and rob that, and he was saying, and he got raided, and something similar what I'm about to describe to you happened, I don't think Jack Posobiec would care at all. Anyway, let me read this. Dozens of FBI agents with tactical gear showed up at Mr. Robertson's home between 6 to 6:30 a.m. They lined up in front of Mr. Robertson's door and, using a megaphone, ordered him to exit with his hands up. Okay, so the way Jack Posobiec described it, he said they were at the front door, there was like some yelling, and then an explosion. That's pretty different from the police went to his front door, got a microphone, and told him to leave the house with the hands up. That's pretty different. Like, there was just some yelling. I mean, were they telling him that he had to come out? Because they could be just like, Robertson, terrorist, and then they go in and charge. He doesn't give those details, because those details do not help his case, do not help his narrative. Because, like, a word that Kyle Kalinske used recently, which I really like, he's a narrative humper. If it doesn't serve the narrative, it is not reported on. They lined up in front of Mr. Robertson's door and, using a megaphone, ordered him to exit with his hands up. Robertson, who previously threatened the FBI on social media by stating, "Hey FBI, you still monitoring my social media? Checking so I can be sure to have a loaded gun handy in case you drop by," he did not open up. The police then attempted to break through his front door, which was extremely heavy. They couldn't cause it, it couldn't break it open. So they used a breaching vehicle to break a window. That's when neighbors heard the first shots. One neighbor told Desert News, after hearing initial gunshots, I heard them yell, this is a quote from them, I heard them yell, shots fired, he has a gun. And then a whole bunch more shots. They were all shooting at the same time. And at that point in time, I was in get my kid mode. Basically, they were worried about getting the child into some room where they couldn't be hurt by the ongoing violence. This is not the only testimony or website that is publishing that he had a gun. While this one is talking about neighbor's testimony, and that is what I'm basing this account off of. So this is not a trial in front of a court. This is the official record of what happened. This is from a neighbor. But we have also a report from AP where they said in their report of the situation that he did have a gun, that he was armed when he engaged with police. You know what this feels like? This feels like a bunch of things colliding together to have these Laura Loomer, Jack Posobiec terrible takes. Number one, the 24-hour news cycle into rush to grab the headline. The news story just broke in the last 24, 48 hours. You know, if you were to wait 72 to 100 to 150 hours for all the information to come out, to give a well-balanced report where you can really be like, this guy deserved it, or this guy didn't deserve it, or this guy, you know, he was innocent, or whatever. They didn't want to do that. And so instead, they rushed. And this is part of the conclusion of that rushing. So that's the first problem. They rushed to a conclusion without all the evidence. Two, he's Trump, and so he can do no wrong. That's also what it just feels like. I'm sorry. If there was a Joe Biden supporter who was naming the location he was going to go kill Donald Trump, and he was posting pictures of the guns he was saying he was going to use to do it, after the FBI had already engaged with him on his erratic behavior online, and a similar situation played out, Jack Posobiec would not be complaining. Laura Loomer would not be complaining. This would not be on their radar. So I do think a certain component of this is the fact that he's Trump. He's with their aligned political movement. Therefore, they need to defend him. Next thing. I think a section of this, or at least a big reason why, I think this is the main motivator why, is that this serves a narrative. Do you remember when the writer of Dilbert said after Joe Biden was elected that within a year of Joe Biden being president of the United States, Republicans would be openly hunted? And when I say openly hunted, I mean literally shot in the street. That there would be Antifa supplied Joe Biden death squads going from town to town, village to village, hunting Republicans and just killing them. It was hyperbolic. I laughed at it. Most people laughed at it. But some people legitimately believe it. They need to reinforce the persecution complex. And that is where the end of this video comes, where he says this was meant to send a message that if you make threats against Biden, then they'll come to your house and get you. Number one, this makes it sound like Joe Biden was personally involved in raid Craig Robertson's house. He's the biggest threat to my administration. He's the only one that could save America. Quick, raid his house. Like, no, I don't even know if Joe Biden even knew about Craig Robertson before the raid. Odds are he didn't. How many crazed psychos do you think that the FBI finds on Truth Social every day? Probably at least 5. If out of all the social media platforms, I do think Truth Social probably has the highest concentration of possible terrorists. Unless somebody can find me like Al-Qaeda, like Al-Qaeda's Twitter, right? Like an Al-Qaeda version of Twitter or something. I will stand by that. But no, I don't think Joe Biden knew about this. And also, if you make threats towards the president of the United States while posting guns after having previous run-ins with law enforcement, do not be surprised when law enforcement comes knocking on your door and they're not playing around when they know you're armed and you're acting crazy. That's a piece of advice to my audience. Don't make death threats to the president and then post pictures of the guns you're intending to use to kill the president. You could get your house raided and you can get blasted if you then point a gun at the cops. Don't do that. That's my hot pro Dylan tip of the day for all my community viewers. Don't threaten the president of the United States if you don't want your house raided. I have been able to get away pretty scot-free without doing that. You know, I've never threatened the president. Terroristic threats, house hasn't been raided. It's worked for me. Hopefully it can work for you. Is the conservative movement so eager to paint itself as the victim that they're going to take this crazed maniac and turn him into a martyr before they have any of the information? What happened to Back the Blue? Back the Blue when they're beating on Antifa, not when they're beating on your guys. Very silly. Very silly reaction from Jack Posobiec. Very silly reaction from Laura Loomer. Wait a little bit if you're about to turn a potential terrorist into your martyr, or you're just going to end up looking like a fool. The FBI aren't blue? How are the FBI not blue? Love you people, but you're too soft on your rhetoric with these people? Oh, okay, 1 second. Everyone, 1 second. So, in order to make a pipe bomb, the first thing you're going to need is some PVC pipe, okay? And you're going to need some string, something that can serve as shrapnel, sometimes bolts, screws, nails, razor. What do you mean my rhetoric isn't strong enough? What do you mean what do you mean, Dylan, your rhetoric isn't strong enough? What do you want me to say? These guys are all terrorists. I'm saying that they are making this terrorist into a martyr because they are narrative humping. I don't know how much more severe my rhetoric could possibly be. Don't make pipe bombs. Official Dylan Burns statement. I meant rhetoric. How much more okay, what do you guys want me to do? Okay. I hear this complaint sometimes that Dylan, your rhetoric's too soft. Where can my rhetoric improve aggression wise? What should I be in my debates with people? Should I call people fascists more?
Immoral,
or like
morally corrupt?
Because I think that you guys want the satisfaction of me being like, you fucking racist, you know? You fucking fascist, you know? Like you get like a satisfaction, like, yeah, you tell him, Dylan. You know? I feel like there's that feels like a motivator. Because if the motivator is, I mean, what would be the other motivator for me to intensify my rhetoric? Because I think that if I use too aggressive rhetoric, it's going to push people away who could be on the margins. Rock407, are you talking about the guy who made some veiled threat against Biden? Veiled threat? I mean, like, if I said, like, ha ha ha, Trump's going to Michigan, be really crazy if someone went up there with a pipe bomb and then I post pictures of me with a pipe bomb, you know? That's not really a veiled threat, is it? That's not a veiled threat. That's a pretty direct threat. Samuelson, thank you so much for the tier 1 being sub for 3 months in Gutter Chat. I appreciate that. Proof required? You're asking for proof that he threatened the president? I'm sure somebody can send you one of the dozens of screenshots of the man saying, I want to shoot Joe Biden. I want to be the guy that goes down in history having used my M24 sniper rifle in ghillie suit, which, by the way, he posted pictures of, to assassinate the president. I don't know how much clearer somebody could be. I mean, I don't know. Like, if he went on and killed the president, everyone for the rest of humanity would be like, how did the Biden administration, how did any government not know he was going to do this in advance? How did they let him get away with it? Not to mention, if Donald Trump got assassinated if Joe Biden got assassinated by this guy, I'd never forgive him for it. If Joe Biden got assassinated by this loser instead of like Al-Shabaab or Boko Haram or some like higher grade terrorist group, I'd never forgive him. Never. You should say it would have been better to take him alive if possible, just to make it clear for conservatives chat. Of course, if he could have been taken alive, just like with any suspect, if he could be taken alive, that's better. But if the guy was about to point a gun at officers, I mean, what other option does the officers have? If that report from the neighbor is true about them like giving him a chance to come out with his hands up and they just didn't, I mean, that ultimately it falls on him. It's his fault. This is what I say. Okay, got you. You got me instructions. See, this is what I say. These people are so bad faith. That is why you need to be harder on your rhetoric. The facts are on their face and they still make these silly comments. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so if I was like, hey, cocksucker, hey, dumb fuck, piece of shit, scumbag cockroach, you're lying, you knuckle dragging remedial fool basket case bitch. Like if I threw all these insults, I don't see how that convinces anyone else. Maybe it'll make them feel bad. Maybe it'll make my audience go, oh yes, but that's not gonna get anybody except for the people who already agrees with me, you know? I just think it's funny how 90% of this chat doesn't think this could be them under a right-wing president. You know what? If I, during Donald Trump's administration, say I am going to go kill Donald Trump and then post pictures of the guns I'm going to use to do it, while saying I'm going to use these guns to do it, Donald Trump has the right to come and shoot me in the fucking head, okay? For being that stupid. I give him permission to come shoot me in the fucking head. Unless Donald Trump, like, overthrows the government and is like, it's dictatorship time, right? I'm not going to be making any violent threats against Donald Trump. So I think that most of my audience, at least I hope to God most of my audience, could also hold themselves to the same strict standard of not threatening terrorism.